Hey there, today I've got 5 easy and fun painting ideas for you. For the first one here, I'm using this sketchbook. I had previously used that for my membership, but now that I don't have my membership anymore, I'm gonna use it. And I also used these Paul Rubens watercolors, and for some reason, one of the pans was empty. I don't know, I just unpacked those and I put some tape onto the paper here. This sketchbook is from Speedball, but I wouldn't recommend it because I think it's very overpriced. But since I already have it, I might as well use it. So here I am starting to paint these ellipses, but I'm doing that very messily. So especially for this first layer, you can do this in any way. The only thing that I would recommend is having a limited color palette. So I used blue tones and I used green tones for the most part. A little bit of purple, a little bit of black here and there, but for the most part we just have blue and green. Let's let that dry and then we will do the second layer here. And at first I used this etcher brush, but it's already a little bit frayed. So I switched to the Meeden brush that I got in one of the palettes that I recently got. Honestly, just use the materials that you have. I'm trying to link the ones that I used in the description box below just because people are usually interested in them. But you can use any watercolors, and we're also going to use a little bit of colored pencils here and there, and same applies for those. Just use whatever you have at home. I assume most people have some watercolors and some colored pencils at home, and any will do, honestly. And you can even use mixed media paper. So now that that's dry, we are removing the tape here, and then we will go over that with some colored pencils. Here I used the ones that I have from Artex. And fun fact, I think Artex and Paul Rubens is the same company. They belong to the same company at least, and they are very, very similar in terms of quality and all that. So here's the first one, and this is what it would look like if it was hung up on the wall. And we're on to the second one now. Here I just sketched some swirls, just very basic swirls. And then I started painting along those very loose sketches. Again, I started with the etcher brush and then switched to the other one. Whichever brush you feel comfortable with is the one. It could also be a much smaller one if you want to do more details, or you could do your style a little bit more loosely. I just like to have these neat little shapes sometimes. I don't know, I find it quite relaxing to do those little shapes. I've been doing these for years and years, but this one might actually be my favorite, or one of my favorites that I've done, because I really like the movement here and I also really like the colors. I used the same color palette as I did on the other side so that the pages would fit together, and that's gonna be a theme in this video. For the other ideas that I'm gonna show you later, I am going to try to fit my new pages to ones that I'd previously done in different videos. So you will see what I mean by that. I just really like flipping through a sketchbook and having a cohesive look, having pages that go together, and it just looks so much nicer than having very random pages. So whenever I feel like doing a certain color palette and then on the other side I don't feel like doing that palette anymore, I just usually flip to a new page and return back when I want to do this color palette again, so that I always have double page spreads with the same color, if that makes any sense. And you can see that I did a variety of shapes and lines. Literally anything that comes to your mind is fine here. It absolutely doesn't have to follow any rules or anything. I did a variety of lines and circles and dots. You could just do one shape if you wanted to, or you could vary the shapes like I did here. You could also do this just in one color if you wanted, or you could use more colors than I did. I personally wouldn't go for more than, let's say, 3 colors. Here I would say that I only used 2. I used blue and green, but I used different types of blue and different types of green, but it still goes together because all of them are in the blue and green range. And if you want to use, for example, pink and orange, that would also look really nice. So go with whatever mood you're in, I would say. And I think that these round shapes are easy because they feel very natural, almost like a meditative process. You could also try more geometric or rougher shapes like triangles or squares, but I think that the more round shapes, like the spiral that I did here, the main shape, are a little bit more organic and flow really nicely with this vibe. I feel like I could do these types of paintings forever. Like I could do them again and again. And honestly, I did paintings like this, similar to this, when I was on my break, and I just doodled with watercolors basically, and I did lots of these little abstract things that don't really have any real motif, they're just abstract. And I am in this phase right now where I really enjoy these for some reason. So here is the finished page spread together, and I really, really like those colors, honestly. And this is what the page would look like if it was hung up on the wall. And now I am using this mixed media sketchbook. Honestly, you could do these things even on mixed media sketchbooks. And you can see I already did a few pages in this one, and I decided to do something that would kind of go with the one that I just showed you. So the color palette for this one is gonna be reds and pinks for the most part, a little bit of blue and a tiny bit of yellow or orange in there, but mostly pinks and reds. And I did these little swirls and just these little doodles that you do when you're a kid. I think we all did that, and then colored in the spaces in between. What is a little bit more special about this one, I'd say, is I tried to keep those lines really light, and then I tried to paint within them a little bit darker. Not everywhere, but a lot of the shapes are a little bit darker than the outline, and I think that adds a really nice effect. And I'm gonna use colored pencils afterwards to add a few little details here and there, so the painting doesn't have to be perfect. We can just make it a little bit more crisp and more defined afterwards. And honestly, while I was doing this, I was asking myself the question whether this is actually interesting enough, because I feel like we've all done this as kids, and this is not a very new idea. But then I thought, why does it even matter? Why do we have to reinvent the wheel every time we create art? Sometimes you just want to relax and do something easy, and sometimes you just need to watch somebody do that and give you permission to do the same. So I decided to keep this in this video. I really like the colors that I picked here, and I do like the end result. So here's what it looked like after the watercolors before I added the colored pencils. I think that removing the tape is always so satisfying. For these types of more abstract things, I think that tape can really help to just make it look a little bit more defined and a little bit nicer. And with the colored pencils, I just added a few lines here and there. I emphasized the movement, I did some double lines, I went over the lines that I already did in some areas, just here and there, and I used colored pencils that fit with the colors. So this is what the finished page spread looks like now, and this is what the painting would look like if it was hung up on the wall. And for the next one here, I picked this page that I already did and decided to go with the theme and the colors of the one on the right. So here I wanted to do some plants, and you can see that I did a few sketches. This is the first one here that is not abstract, but I tried to keep these as simple as possible. You can later on when I show the sketch pause and just copy the sketch that I did if you want to, or you can make just really simple plants. It really doesn't have to be perfect whatsoever. We're gonna do 2 steps again with watercolors and colored pencils. I just did this sketch here a little bit darker than I usually would, so now I am using a kneaded eraser. I just did that so you can see what I sketched, and then I started to paint this, basically just color it in with my watercolors, and you can use just flat colors for each shape if you want to. I tried to play around with my colors a little bit, and for the most part tried to make them fit with the next page that we had, where I have the yellows and a very minty teal sort of color. And I also added a little bit of green and a little bit of this light lilac color. And that's basically my color scheme here. I also did a little bit of brown just for the darker sections of this bonsai tree and some other areas here and there, just to make it look cohesive. And in the middle of all of those shapes, like in between the spaces, I just doodled a few very simple leaves just to fill the page. And the plant on the top in the middle is going to be a bunny, and the leaves are going to be the ears. I thought that that was really cute. And the one on the right in the middle is a cat squishing away the leaves a little bit. I've done that before, but I find this idea so funny. I keep on repeating it. And then again, I used some colored pencils. I used a green tone, a brown tone, and a bluish purple tone. And I've been using these colored pencils quite a lot. They are nice enough for doodle stuff, I would say. They're not on the same level as polychromos or the Prismacolor colored pencils. They're somewhere in between them when it comes to softness. Unfortunately, they break quite a lot, and that's one of the reasons why they're not perfect for line art. So if you have harder colored pencils, you could just as well use those. They don't have to be the softest ones like I used here, but these are nice enough for these types of things. So I outlined everything. I gave everything a little bit of a face, and I just did a few little details. I tried not to overdo the details, but for the most part, I just outlined the shapes and I added silly little faces. Now I am realizing that the bonsai and the flower vase both didn't get a face, and everything else got a face. So maybe I should go back and add faces to them. I don't know. Let me know what you think. I really like putting faces on plant pots. I think that is really cute. And the one here on the top left is a really cool plant. Like, it has this very cool haircut and glasses because it just needed to be that cool. I don't know. I found that funny. And this is what this page looks like. And this is what the page spread looks like together now. And this is what the painting would look like if it was framed. And now I am using this Paul Rubens watercolor sketchbook, which unfortunately seems to be falling apart for some reason. I literally just started using that, so I don't know what's up with that. I hope it's just the first page. It didn't happen on this one here, so we will see the future. So far, I do really like the paper. So yeah, we will see how this goes. And for this one, this is a little bit more sketch heavy, But if you are a complete beginner or if you just feel like it, I have a coloring page for this one, and I will make this available for free. So check out the link in the description box below so you can get this coloring page for free. You can use this instead if you don't want to sketch this thing. I did a very loose sketch here. And then for the coloring page, I neatened it up quite a bit. I still tried to make it look doodly, but not as rough as the sketch here looked. And with the painting itself here in the sketchbook, I tried to stay as loose as possible. I didn't want to overthink it too much, especially when it comes to houses and architecture. You can overthink things a lot. You can get a ruler and be so rigid about this that it takes out all of the fun, at least it would for me. So I try to stay really loose and quick here. If you want to do the same and stay loose, then you can just set yourself a timer, maybe 20 minutes or so, something where you feel like this is a challenge and this is quicker than you usually create your art. If it usually takes you an hour, then maybe just half that and do it in half an hour. If it usually takes you 20 minutes, then do it in 10. It depends on your usual style and however long things take you. If you're somebody who does 10-hour paintings, then maybe this idea could loosen you up a little bit. This is just something that could be a warm-up. It could be something relaxing that you do at the end of the day when you don't have that much time. I really didn't want to go all in with everything here. I just wanted to have something fun and something that is very expressive in that sense. I tend to be very detailed with my art. I tend to try to make everything look crisp and neat. And so this is an exercise for me to just not be too perfectionistic in a sense and just let loose a little bit. I do tend to struggle with that a little bit. So I tried to do that here and I had a lot of fun with that, honestly. And also, if you struggle with being loose, then try to do it on a day when you feel super impatient, when you don't really feel like doing art. I felt a little bit impatient when I did this, so that definitely helped. And I at first just did the watercolors and then I did one color of a colored pencil on top to just add a few little details and outlines basically, because the sketch that I did with the pencil was very, very loose. I used my favorite color, which is mauve, and this is a polychromo colored pencil, which is really nice for line art because these don't break as much, but they're more on the expensive side, so I don't always use them. And I need these darker purple colors so much. I bought these not that long ago and they're already getting so small. So yeah, that is the thing when you're doing a lot of line art with colored pencils, but I just really like doing line art with colored pencils. It looks really fun and soft, and with this one I really tried to stay as loose as I could. And yeah, I had a lot of fun. I would like to do something similar again, maybe even on the page next to this, maybe with a little bit more bold color scheme. If you want to get the free coloring page, again, check the link in the description box. And if you'd like to see more fun painting ideas, then check out this video next.